Let's get rolling. Okay, so if you're looking at the title of this live stream, you notice I mentioned tilt shift in the title. And tilt shift photography is pretty cool if you can come across it. The best way that I can describe it, and probably not technically accurate, but if you think about an image, say like a city or something, the tilt shift images will look like a real life setting but made into a toy like setting. You know, you can take a group of cars and line them up just right in your shot, but if you blur it a certain way, those cars will almost look like little Matchbox toys, depending on your angle, depending on the post-processing and blurring. Well, with that said, you can do tilt shift with video as well. Personally, I think it can be a little bit easier doing tilt shift video, especially nowadays with drones out there. You can get a lot of aerial shots and turn real life city stuff into more of a fantasy, almost toy-like looking tilt shift. With cameras, you usually have to have a tilt shift lens that will do the proper distortion to give you that look that you want. But nowadays, man, you can do a lot of this stuff inside of Photoshop, or what I'm going to do tonight, Premiere Pro. So I got some footage that I want to give a whirl. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but this is another quick tip as far as using Premiere Pro. I always try to set up what I call a template file, because it'll give me all of my little assets and stuff that I know I'm going to generally use when I start a video project. Instead of having to hunt and peck the stuff, I just go ahead and have them preloaded for me. So I'm going to reopen Premiere Pro. Hey, Hybrid Media, what's happening? Good to see you. My music is a little loud, dang. I didn't want it to be that loud. Alright, so now you see right here this says video template. It's just totally random name, but I know that that's the first thing that I can click on every time I get ready to start a project. And okay, it'll load up Premiere Pro and it'll have all the layout to my liking. But over here on the bottom left hand side is where all of my files that I'll be working with. And I put different bins or folders over here. In audio, intros, lower thirds, photos, and video. And then if you expand these different folders, there's a music bed, there's a voiceover, because sometimes I do voiceover inside of my video. I'll have on a lav mic or something like that, and I'm not specifically using the mic that's on the camera, you know, or the client that I'm working with. And there's intros. These are the intros that I use the most when doing my videos, so I figured I should throw them in there. And then I have a video folder, B-roll, action camera, the drones video, the DSLR's videos, and the smartphones video. And I'll just load everything up that I need to load up. So let's go ahead and start with this footage, because I know it is drone footage. So I'm just going to browse to try to find all of that stuff and get everything squared away. I think I called it drone tilt shift or something like that. Why can't I find it all of a sudden? Time. Well, I'll be dang, I can't find it. There it is. It was right there at the top where it's supposed to be. So this is drone footage. Pop that in there. Good to go. And if I want to do music, I can, but I'm not going to worry about music right now. I'm not going to worry about audio and stuff like that. And then I'll immediately save this template as something else. So we'll say tilt shift video live stream. So that way it's a brand new file and I didn't overwrite my template. Okay. Hybrid, no, I was not in the military, and I will be honest with you. The fact that you asked me that, it's flattering. I appreciate that. I get asked that very often. I'm not a military guy, but I do love order. I do love order and organization, as you can tell from all of these folders over here, you know. All right, so we got the footage imported. So let's go ahead and start working with it. We'll make ourselves a brand new sequence here. Now, you don't have to do file new sequence like that. You could just go ahead and start dragging your footage over to your timeline, and it'll make a sequence. But I don't like to do it that way because sometimes you have different sources of video. You got drone video. This is probably in 4K, and then the stuff from the DSLR is probably in 1080p. And you know, I don't want to drag something over here first and have the sequence set to one particular format and I forget about it. So I just go ahead and set up the sequence myself and just work with it from there. Hopefully that makes sense. And you see I built these custom sequences to make it a lot easier for me. You know, this is my HD, my 4K, the 720, which I hardly ever use. I probably should delete it. And then I have this sequence here that I can use for Instagram stories. All right, but of course, I'm just going to do 1080p. Even though this stuff is shot in 4K, it's okay to do a 1080p footage or a sequence. All right, and then I'm going to move that down. Which one do I want to work with here? Let's see. Yeah, let's work with this one. And this is a pretty easy one to do. So we'll drag this one over to our timeline. And of course it's saying, hey, you shot this thing in 4K, but your sequence is not 4K. Do you want to change it to 4K? No, I want to keep it as is because I like to be able to have a nice ability to zoom in and out when I use 4K footage and put it inside of a 1080p container, and I don't lose any resolution or quality. It's a beautiful thing. Man, I love that. All right, so of course I need to scale this back down to fit. So I think 50% is what does it. Yep, there. All right, and this is something that I've already shot and rendered out for another project because you notice how fast the cars are going. But this still could use a little more tilt shift effect to make it look like this is a toy racetrack or something, if you will. And I probably could stabilize it a little bit too. You know, because it was a drone is not going to always be totally stable. They try, you know, even with the gimbal, but you know, you don't know what kind of wind you're dealing with at 200 feet. You have no idea. And that little bit of wind will make it rock a little bit. You see it's sort of rocking and bobbing right there. And now that I look at this thing again, I see something I didn't notice the first time. Look right here at this flag. There was a lot of wind going on that day. Yeah, I mean, it's considering how windy it is stable, but I think it could use a little more. I'm going to try it. Let me see if I can put a stabilizer on it just to see what happens. So what I'll do is I'll open up my effects panel over here in the upper right. And if you ever watch any other Premiere Pro tutorials, you'll notice nobody's screen looks the same. Everybody has their own way of working. Adobe does a great job with giving you these workspaces up at the top. What? I didn't want that as my default. I hope I can fix that back. But they give you these different workspaces at the top. Oh, that's just from the updates. Okay, I'm good. And these different workspaces allow you to focus on certain things. Like that color workspace allows me to focus on doing color grading and correction. Effects will do the same for the effects. And the audio looks really cool because you can edit audio a little bit better now inside of Premiere Pro instead of having to take it over to Audition and motion graphics and all of that. But I don't use any of these templates anymore. I decided to just make my own that I think works best for me. And that is to take some of the elements of these workspaces and put them all in one. So I got my color over here, I got my effects over here, and my essential graphics panel right there, all in one screen. And then I have this Lumetri scopes at the bottom to help me keep a better eye on what's going on with the color and saturation and so forth. But anyway, back to trying to stabilize this for just a brief moment. Requires clip dimensions to match. Okay, so since this is a 4K piece of footage and I'm inside of a 1080p container, I can't do the warp stabilizer. So I have to trick it and do what they call nesting. So I need to undo that action so that error goes away. I'll right click on this and I'll say nest, and I'll just leave it as sequence 1. It's okay. Okay, so now I can pop over here with my stabilizer effect, just drag it to my timeline. Okay. And I'm going to make some adjustments here. I don't think 50% here over on the left hand side is needed. Most of the time you can get away doing stabilizer anywhere between 2 and 10%. I started about 2. And it's going to think about it. You know, that would be a good idea, having workspaces like that for Lightroom, just where it's tabulated like that. Never thought about that. And you could just get to them with a few keyboard shortcuts. Dude, that would be pretty badass. That's a good idea. Have you ever tried to suggest that to the Adobe forums, Clay? I know for a fact that Adobe does read all of those different suggestions that come in. Excuse me. And they try their best to acknowledge those things, and they get so many different requests. But I do know for a fact they read requests and ideas. So yeah, you should probably submit that. That sounds like it could be a pretty nifty idea. And being able to use, oh, you gave up on it. That's right. You discussed that before. I got you. Right. Fair enough. Well, it's saying it's going to take 2 more minutes for it to stabilize this. That's pretty bad. It's normally a lot faster than that. All of my processors look okay. Wonder what's up with that. That's all right. We can deal. No worries. Just minimize this for now. All right. While that's stabilizing, we can start looking at the rest of the tilt shift effect. Okay. So the key is you put some blur around part of the image, and then you add just enough sharpness to the focal point. Okay, just enough sharpness to the focal point, and you blur the rest of the image just a touch, and you may even have to decrease the exposure a little bit, because all you're trying to do is make the focus on a particular item, but the way that focus sort of comes into play and blends out as you go away from the focal point, it sort of plays a trick on you and gives you that whole tilt shift effect. So what I'm going to do is go to this layer, and I'm going to duplicate it because I'm going to have to add a mask. Let me see if I can duplicate this right there. All right. And of course now it's stabilizing since I'm ready to do what I need to do. Come on. All right, so now this is a supposedly stabilized. Let's see what it looks like. That looks just a little bit better, not much better. Yeah. I don't know, dude. Let me look at it with the stabilizer off. Let me kill that one. So let's see, we'll turn the stabilizer off for a second. Yeah, it's not much difference. Yeah, it's not much different. So I'm just going to take the stabilizer off totally. That way when it's time to render this thing, I don't have to worry about resources for the stabilizer. You know what I'm saying? Okay, back to the project here. First we're going to do is we had to duplicate our video layer. So we have two of the same thing. And we're going to add a mask to this top layer. And if you go over here to the mask, I like to use the ellipse mask. You can draw it out if you want. But for something like this, knowing that I have a particular path I can follow, it's a little bit easier to just use the ellipse mask and just shape it the way you want to shape it. Like that. And of course you can rotate it. And what I'm doing is basically masking out everything on the outside. Oh, why is my mask doing that? I hit the wrong point. Dang it. Didn't mean to do that. There. Everything that's on the outside of this ring is going to be masked out. Okay. So if I were to just hide this bottom layer, you see everything goes away. That's how the mask works. Okay. So this is the mask, taking away everything that's outside of that ring, like that. Okay. Hope that makes sense. But I want to make it work for just a specific area, so I'm going to keep trying to manipulate it as best I can. I think this works okay. Plus I also want to give it enough room to have a gradual blur away from this sharp focal point. Okay. All right. Now you can come over here to the left side at your mask properties, and you can adjust the feather of your mask. And if you look closely, there's this dotted line going around the edge of the mask there. And by adjusting the feather, you're basically saying, okay, I'm going to have everything on the outside of that mask blend into the inside of that mask. So that way you don't have a hard edge. And I'll show you what it looks like. So let's turn the mask off. I mean, not the mask. Let's turn the feather off. And then I'm going to show you what the mask looks like. So if I add a feather to this mask, notice the black, it should begin to fade in a little bit. See that? It's starting to fade in right there. So it's not a real hard edge when it comes to this line right here. That's what the feather is for. And you can adjust that to be the amount of feathering, whatever you see fit. Depends on your project. You know, there's no real magic number. Just play it by ear, if you will, or by eye. Yep, softer fall off. That's right, Clay. Perfect. Said it much more eloquently than I did. I really appreciate that. All right, so there's the mask. Now we want to take a look at this outside area, and the only way to focus on that is to work on this bottom layer. Okay, so what we're going to do with it is add a blur. And you have all kinds of blurs built into Premiere Pro. You got this camera blur, channel blur, compound, directional, Gaussian. I mean, it's a ton of them in there. Fast blur. Some of them I think is just too much, for tilt shift. I've found that the Gaussian blur works just as good, and it gives you a lot more control. So I already have the Gaussian blur in my custom bin because I use it all the time anyway. So I'll just go ahead and drag that over to this bottom layer like that, and that way it pops over on the left hand side for my effects controls, and I can start doing a blur on the bottom layer. Now what I'll do is I'll turn off this top layer so you can't see it by clicking this little eyeball here, and we're only going to focus on this bottom layer and just add a little blur. And if I want, I can just totally jack it up like that, but that's way too much. So I will be semi-gradual. I normally try to start around 10. Right now 10 is looking like it might be too much, so let's go with, say, 8 for now. All right. And then when I unhide that top layer, what's going to happen is just the part that was masked, you'll see that it gets really sharp, and the rest of this area here will stay blurred like that. You see the difference there? See, this is a lot sharper and a little more clarity, and then this back area back here is starting to blur. And since we did the feather on the mask, it's a lot more gradual, coming from that blur to the sharpness. You see the feathers right there? Hope that makes sense. All right. So if I play this back, just to take a look at it, I almost got that on the first try. That's bizarre. I normally have to play with the blur for another couple minutes, and I probably will, just to make sure. Remember, I thought 10 might have been too much. Let's look at it at 10 anyway for the Gaussian blur. Yeah, 10 looks all right. Let's see if we do 15. And when I do these tilt shift projects, I look at them, and if my eyes start to hurt, that means I blurred it too much. And right now I'm getting to that threshold, because it shouldn't hurt your eyes to look at it. Yeah, I think I blurred a little too much there. So let's take it down to 12 just to see. Thank you, Clay. Yeah, I normally don't get it right off the bat. That was pure luck. Yeah, I think that works right there. The background is sort of hazy and blurry, and then this middle area here is nice and crispy. But we can make this better because it's 4K footage. We can get in even tighter, and that'll really, really sell the effect. So I'm going to increase the scale. Let's go in to let's say 120. And of course that's going to freak it out because I got 2 layers. I need to do it for both layers. 120. No, we can go a little closer. Let's get tighter. Make it 150. There. And that don't look half bad. And I can move it around. Move it up a little bit like that. Oh, good old 4K footage in 10K. 1080p that is. It's just awesome. And I'll just copy these attributes for the bottom layer. So that's 1073 and 451. I'll type 1073 and 451, and they're lined up. Now the only problem is, since I tightened in on it this much, I may need to decrease the mask size. See how the mask size is now overshooting everything. I wanted to have a little blur around all areas of that mask, so let's go ahead and try to shrink it down some, just a touch. I think something like this would be all right. No, that is the drone that I have is the Autel Robotics X-Star Premium. It doesn't have a 1-inch sensor. It has almost a one. I think it has almost a 1/2 inch. It's not a 1/2 inch. It's just under a 1/2 inch sensor. It's not the best sensor size, but it does a really good job, especially when you shoot in log format. I'm so surprised and so impressed with it, because the DJI brand at the time cost so much more for what I'm getting, and this thing does just as well as every single DJI pilot that I see out there. My footage, nobody assumes that I'm shooting with an Autel Robotics, and when I tell them that, they're always surprised. But yeah, that DJI Mavic is pretty solid. It's pretty solid. I looked at getting one, but I decided against it because I didn't care for how the gimbal was on the DJI Mavic. It just didn't sit well with me. It just seemed like it was really, really vulnerable to being broken, you know. Maybe if you bought some additional landing gear, it would give me a little less stress. Okay. What do you guys think about this mask right here? You think expanding it to right about there is okay? I think so. What do y'all think? So we brought it down on the lateral sides, but the top and bottom, I tried to expand it just a touch. Yeah, it is nice for a really small sensor. Really is. They did a good job. I don't think they get enough credit for it. Okay, so now we have the mask set there. Let's play this back. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. And then I also like this part of it here. Let me show you. We're going to start here and watch the car as it comes down the street right here. It really sells the effect because it's coming down, and now it looks like a little toy just showed up. Let me show it to you again. So watch up here at the top of the frame. See, it's coming through that haze. Yeah, I dig that. And then if you want, you can do some color correction and all of that. I'm gonna clear that air off. There we go. This thing has already been color graded. I mean, but I could still play around with it. Premiere Pro makes it really easy with the different LUTs. And I got a ton of LUTs. I have a ton of LUTs. And what's scary is I have so many of these LUT packs on here, and I may use 10% of them, you know. But LUTs make it so easy to work with if you shoot in log. Let me close that off like that. See that one right there? This one's probably my favorite, and it happens to be the same last name of another photographer that I love. I don't know if it's his LUT pack or not. I don't even remember where I got it. But the McKinnon LUT pack. I always thought it looks good. Now I can't find it. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? There it is. I love how that looks. Now granted, it's slightly underexposed, just slightly, but that's an easy fix. Easy fix. Let's do that. Do that. like that. Now we have to be careful. We don't want that blurred area to be exposed too much. If it's a little underexposed, it does help the effect a little bit better because it makes it like a vignette. So just play around with it and see what works best for your project. See, right now I'm actually bringing the exposure up. And see, I brought it up too much right there. But I always like to go beyond the expectation and then dial it back to find that happy medium. And I think right about there, half a stop is pretty good. All right. There. And then, of course, when you're done, you just do your little render to give yourself a better preview. I really don't think I need to do this render because it's 1080p and it played this fairly well. And it still has a green dot right here showing that I didn't drop any frames. So the computer was handling it pretty well. Thank you, folks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. While that's doing that, I'm going to take a sample of this new whiskey, new scotch, the Dalwhinnie 15, not a sponsor. My glass looks dirty. How is my glass still dirty? That has a lot more bite than I expected to be a 15-year malt. Yeah, this looks good. I'm glad I put this LUT on here. That looks good. Did y'all see that? Playing back in real time. That looks good. I mean, it looks like little toys, like it's supposed to. If I pause it here, oh, just go back a little bit. Like, look right there. Like right here, we got all of these different colors in the frame. Right here. Okay, so we got all of these different colors. You got these reds, the grays, and whites, blue. And it just, remember Hot Wheels? Am I showing my age? Yeah, you get it. Yeah, that's right, Clay. Right. I agree. Now, I guess I could add some music to this. I could share how I do my music. I have a folder full of random music. I get a lot from SoundCloud because the artists over there's a lot of artists on SoundCloud that will give you express permission to use their tracks in your videos without any issues with royalties. They just want to be credited. So SoundCloud is a great resource, and it's a lot of good music over there, as well as there's a bunch of different services out there that can offer you royalty free music. So I have a little bit of both, but I love SoundCloud because these guys are artists that are just sort of starting out, or have already really made a name for themselves and just doing what they do. And I just like to give them the credit and give them the love because they're really good. What kind of track? No, I won't go there. There's another source that I have, and if something comes to my mind, something like this might work. So let me drag this to the music folder, like that. So we got Honeybee. I think Honeybee and Funk Game are two that come to mind. So let's see. Honeybee. Ooh, that's loud. Sorry. Yeah, see, that sounds like that would fit that scene. Nah, I don't think this fits the scene as good as Honeybee does. So let's add a little Honeybee to the audio track. And of course, this thing is super, super loud. You can see the waveform right here. See, those waveforms are almost to the top. That's like a dead giveaway for me. And I've pretty much gotten used to it to where I automatically take my music down by 10 decibels just right off the bat. Half the time I don't even look. I just drag music in. I already know. Make sure I decrease it by 10 decibels right off the bat. And if I need to fix it later, I can easily do so. Yeah, be sure to check out SoundCloud, man. There's so many talented people over there. And they actually, and it's some of them, they actually encourage you. Yes, please use my music. Just make sure you give me a shout out, a credit, or something like that, you know. Yeah, I think that fits. What do y'all think? Yeah, I like that. So let's goof off with it a little bit more since I got nothing but time. You know, we just partying it up on a Friday night. Let's put a little graphic on it. So we're going to say tilt, shift, on ya. I don't know what I'm saying. All right, so I'm going to adjust this font. You know, for some reason, Adobe likes to default to the Tahoma font. I don't really care for the Tahoma font like that. But if you have Creative Cloud, you can get a ton of different fonts with it. Yeah, you got to get back to them, Clay. Get back to them. But with this font kit, I've browsed a gazillion times and I've almost narrowed it down to some of my favorites, and this one is probably my favorite font. Bebas New. I hope I'm saying that right. Bebas New. That's probably my favorite. This one, Futura, is a new one for me, and it's starting to grow on me a little bit. That's another one. And you see it has different types. You can make it a little bit thicker that way, or give it an oblique, or make it heavier or bold like that. You know, Futura is growing on me. Oh, and then I also have one that I purchased from a designer friend of mine, Mr. Adam Ergel. His is called Predator, and I've used it for other projects. If you look at this font, you notice it's a little more on the athletic side. So depending on the project, I've used this particular font, and you can change it. Like he's got the bold, he's got a cutout like that. You see how it put the little cuts in the corners around it, you know. But yeah, that's just someone, I bought some fonts from him, and he's a hell of a designer. But I think I'm going to stick with Old Faithful Bebas, or maybe even Impact and Lato. Impact and Lato are my other two. Let's look at them first too. So this is Impact, and Lato is the other one. Nope. We'll go with Bebas. There. Alright, so we got tilt, shift, on you like that. And I'm going to move this here like this. Okay. And I need to make that stand out a little bit more. So I think I will put, you know, a little color background. You like Impact? I like Impact too. And I've used it more so for certain graphics that I had to create that needed to send a certain type of message. And it's funny, the font was called Impact because and it fit that particular project because I needed to send out an impactful message. Imagine that. Yeah, so let me put some color to make this stand out a little bit more on this little graphic here, because right now it being white like that, it just, yeah, I don't dig it. I can add a stroke to it, but sometimes adding a stroke makes it look worse. No, that looks okay. That looks better than I expected. Yeah, looks a little crispy. But I still think it needs some more color. So I'm going to do like a shape. So let's say new, we'll do an ellipse like that. So we're going to drag this over here. Oh, crud. I meant to do it on a new layer. I can't do it that way. So undo, undo. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Impact would be perfect for thumbnails. I've been using, I think my last couple of thumbnails have been Babas or Lato. But yeah, dude, yeah, that's, you're right. You're right, bro. Good call. See, I'm glad y'all pop in here because I learned stuff from y'all. All right, so let's add some color to this thing on the background. Move that down like that. Line this up, and we're going to make it a ellipse. And we're going to drag said ellipse over here. And Adobe makes it so much easier to just make things certain shapes and sizes like that. And doing all of this right here and not having to go into After Effects, you know, like that. And no, I am not going to keep that color. That's, I mean, I'm a plain dude, but good gosh, that's even too plain for me. So what color should we go with on this thing? If I look at I like to try to look at a color wheel, because it helps figure out what the complementary colors are in your scene. For example, if you're looking at your orange right here on the right hand side, and this orange area on the circle, right across on the other side is blue. So blue would be your complement that you could use in here, you know, and there's yellow and there's another tone of blue to complement the yellow, and vice versa. Right now I'm looking at this scene and looking at the lumetri scopes. Down here in the bottom right corner, you see that my red channel is sort of overpowering everything. So maybe I can try something on the other end of the red spectrum. Maybe. Right now I'm thinking no, because I don't really like these colors, but we'll try it. Let's just try it for the heck of it, because sometimes the science works. Get rid of that shape, the fill color, and we're going to pick dang, what was that color? I forgot what color it was. Hold on. It was one of these blues, wasn't it? Yeah, it's one of those blues with blue greens. So let's try this again. Fill color. It was right along in here. So let's try. I don't like that. It doesn't make it stand out enough. Let's try this one. Yeah, that looks like crap. I'm going to go with my gut and go with the old faithful orange. I love me some orange graphics. I just got to find an orange that I like. This is never easy for me. Yeah, that looks a little better. It looked like crap, didn't it? I think this orange stands out a little bit better. Maybe even try Yeah, even this color here from the crosswalk looks better. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna go with that, and then just go with a darker version of it. Don't be hating on my orange bias. Don't even go there. All right. See, I think this pinkish, reddish color, whatever that color is, I have no idea. I think that works. All right. So now it's a little boring because it just pops up. And then it just goes away. That is really, really boring. So let's try to give it a little bit of life with some movement of some sort. So let's just I'm gonna drag it from right to the left. That's what we'll do. So I'll put my little timeline cursor head here, playhead there, and I'm gonna hit the graphic for the ellipse, go to my effects controls, and I'm gonna put a keyframe, boom, right there. And then I'm gonna go back in time to where this thing first comes in, right there. And I'm gonna move that keyframe to where it's off the screen, all the way over there, like that. All right, and then I will do the same thing for the actual text there. Wait a minute, if the Autel drone was black. Come on, man. You know, getting back to the Autel thing. All right, when I was looking to buy a drone, the Autel being orange was a big selling point for me, as well as the whole modular capabilities. With that Autel drone, at least at the time, how they sold it was, you know, you can take the camera off because they had plans for upgrading cameras, and instead of buying a brand new drone, you can just buy a brand new camera. And they did end up making some FLIR cameras, but I don't need that. So it's that was a selling point, and the orange color. The orange color was a selling point because, and you guys know this because you fly drones. When you fly in the drone and you get up to about 60, 70 feet or higher, and then you get out to, you know, maybe, heck, even 100 meters away from you, it gets hard to see that thing, especially if it's a clear-ish blue day and you have some clouds up there. If you have a white drone, it's really hard to see a white drone in the sky with white clouds. But I don't have any issues spotting my drone line of sight because it's orange. When it goes up to the sky, I can see it. And a black one would be just as good because it doesn't blend in. There's a contrast when it's up so high in the sky, and it doesn't necessarily blend in with the clouds that's going by, or even with the trees. If I'm flying near trees, I see my drone clearly because it's orange, and it contrasts so well right there with the green leaves on the trees. And I don't know about you guys, but I struggle with daylight. If you've watched my channel or seen any other social media posts with me outside, 90% of the time you see me with sunglasses on, and it's because I really struggle with daylight. I don't know, I'm not a vampire or anything like that. I'm not that weird, but I see much better at night than I do in the daytime. So I always have on sunglasses, and people look at me weird at times because they think the sun has gone down, but it still bothers me. You know, it is what it is. So now being able to see my UAS out there just flying around, and I can get next to trees and spot it easily in the trees or spot it easily up near the clouds, you know, it's so much better. I probably would struggle with the white DJI drone. I have another little drone here. I have a SEMA, and it's white, but I don't fly it as high because I can't see it. I can't see that thing. I fly it just high enough and just far away enough to where I could see it. But on a clear day, when I go out there and that thing starts flying too high, I lose it every single time. I just have to listen for it. But yeah, that's the deal with the Autel drone. And so Autel, you're not a sponsor, and maybe you will be one day, but I appreciate y'all doing the orange like that. Spray painting would help too. Yep. Okay, now back to this graphic here. So we've done the movement for the little ellipse. So we'll do the same thing for this text here, the tilt shift on your text. So I'm just going to move my playhead to the same spot, and I'm going to mark a keyframe for the text right there. Go back down here, move this back, mark another keyframe over here for the text. Just moving it off the screen. Boom. So now when I hit play, these should slide in, but they are sliding in really slow. See that? I don't like that. I want that to be a little bit faster and a little bit smoother. So a good trick on this thing is the easy ease option when it comes to doing motion graphics. So let me tighten in on this view up here where the keyframes are on the upper left here in the effects control screen. So I'm going to tighten in a little bit more so you can see. And that's the keyframe right there for the actual ellipse here, the colorful thing there, whatever it's called. And that's for once it's here on the screen. So if I right click on it and change the temporal interpolation, such a big polysyllabic word, change that to ease in, and then I'll hop over to the keyframe from when it's off the screen, zoom in a little bit more like that, and change that to ease out. And what that does is it makes the motion be a lot smoother and not as jarring when it's going from point A to point B. I should probably save this project so the autosave doesn't keep coming up, because I don't trust the autosave to save me. All right, sorry about that. So what the easy ease does is when you're going from point A to point B, it makes it more of a smooth motion and sort of gradual as it gets to its spot and stops. Okay. If you don't have that easy ease, it's really abrupt. The takeoff is abrupt and the stop is abrupt like that, and it's just not pleasing to the eye. You could see it more when it's a slow motion going across the screen, but you still can see it when it's a quicker motion like this. The best way to show that, as far as a visual representation, is you take this little arrow here on the position keyframe and pop it down, and you get a little graph. And this graph shows you now that it's a gradual ramping from point A to point B. This here is your speed. The higher this goes up on that y-axis, the faster it goes. So as it's going across the x, it's speeding up, and then it starts to slow down right there. I personally like to make it ramp up a little bit more like that, like almost ramp and then get more to an abrupt stop that way. And you'll see the difference right here when I hit playback. So let's take a look. You know, well, let me hide the lettering because I haven't set the lettering up just yet. See how this sort of just zips in and then stops. You know, see? It's not as jarring, but yet at the same time, it grabs your attention because it sort of jerks to its stop, to its halt. And if I wanted to, I could, make it go a hair further and then back. Apple does that with a lot of its animations. If you look at an iPhone or iPad, actually, yeah, just look at an iPhone. If you're scrolling through a menu, scrolling up and down, and when it gets to that bottom of the menu, that little bounce effect, it's just more pleasing to the eye. And you can do the same thing right here with your speed graph editor inside of Premiere Pro. It's a lot easier inside of After Effects, but it's not too hard over here in Premiere Pro. So I got that square. Now I want to do the same thing similarly for the actual text. So I'm just going to right click, temporal interpolation, ease in, and then go over here to this other one, just right click on it, ease out, like that. Okay, so that's got the motion down. Only problem with it, this thing is way ahead. I'm not saying that the text needs to be totally in line with the ellipse as it comes across, but dang, it ain't gotta be that far ahead. So I may need to fix the speed when it comes to the actual text. So let's take a look at this graph. Spread it out a little more to slow it down. Now let's see how it works. Okay, so now that was too slow. Okay, so let's move it here like that. Still not right. See, this is when it gets tedious, but it's always worth it because the final product looks so good. See, now it's coming out a little too much. So I'm going to move this beginning point of the keyframe. I'll move it to right about there. And now let's play it back. Now that time it was behind. So let's move it back just a touch. And that time is too far ahead. Find the happy medium. That's better. And I can slow down the ellipse just a touch. Okay, let's play it back. Much better. I dig that. Now the only problem is it just falls off the screen. It should fade some. Also, I think we should give the little ellipse a little bit of transparency. Give it a little more class, something like that. So it's a little too opaque, you know what I'm saying? So let's change that opacity down a little bit so we can see through it some. And that's totally up to you. I think that looks a little bit better. Let me see if I take it down a little more. That might be too much, because I don't want to be able to lose the ability to read the actual text, So we'll go, say 66. Let's try that. Yeah, I think that works much better. But again, I don't like just this abrupt cutoff once the graphic goes away. We can either make that fade or we can make it go off the screen. And heck, if we're going to make it go off the screen, we could even add some fade or blur to it as it's going off the screen. So let's, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? And I'm going to sip more whiskey. Did my music totally stop back there? It did. There we go. Okay, you think a fade? Do you think it should do any motion? Just fade out. Okay, just fade out. That was easy. So I'll go over to my effects panel, go to my custom bin, to the effects that I use all the daggum time just to speed up my workflow. Just put them in one spot. And we'll go with additive dissolve. Works like a charm. Like that. Just drag those effects over to these two layers like so. Now let's play it back. I like it. I like it. So that's it, y'all. That's good old tilt shift with your video footage. And if you got a dadgum drone, man, it's so easy to get some awesome tilt shift drone footage. You know, just go out and just look in your area, look in your backyard even, you know. You can play around. Like right now where I live in a cookie cutter neighborhood, okay? Oh, excuse me. Sorry, burping scotch into the mic. Not good. But I live in a cookie cutter neighborhood, okay? So that means all of the houses are just next to each other. One house, one house, one house, one house, you know. I could play around with that and put the drone up on a Saturday morning when people are out getting ready to go out and about to go shopping to flea markets or grocery shopping or running morning errands. So my streets will be full with activity. There's going to be cars going up and down the streets. There's going to be people walking dogs and things like that. So just take your drone out. If your neighbors don't have a problem with you flying their drone, just be mindful of that, because some people don't like you flying around their house or like that for privacy, you know. So just be mindful of that. I don't have that problem. My neighborhood knows that I'm a photographer and videographer, and they don't care. But yeah, just take it out to your neighborhood, get it at a decent height. You don't have to get very high. I think with this particular example that I'm using here, I think I'm a little too high. It just happens to work out this time, but I don't think you really need to go any more than 100 feet. I think 100 feet might be pushing it a little bit. So just take a look at your altitude and then also adjust your camera pitch. You know, shooting it just straight down 90 degrees and having an overhead look, that'll look okay. But it really won't look as much as like a tilt shift as something with a little bit of depth to it, you know, a little distance to it. I think if you're going to shoot straight down like overhead with a 90-degree drone shot, I think those shots look good if they're shot on if they're reproduced as like a time lapse where things are going a lot faster. That's just my opinion. Your mileage may vary, your opinions may vary, but it's all good because it's freaking art. But yeah, get out there and try that stuff out, man. All right, do y'all have any questions for me? I've been working on a vlog video for that I was hoping to try to get uploaded today, but apparently that didn't happen. Oh, so sad. I got to get better with this time management thing. What questions y'all have for me? Any? I appreciate you guys being here in the chat and watching, hanging out. Oh, thank you. I know Hybrid asked me on Instagram if I was going to stream today, and I like the idea of doing Friday night streams, but I don't know if I can commit to it just yet. Because Friday nights I'm usually in a bottle of whiskey and I'm just chilling, hanging out with my family and watching Netflix and Hulu and YouTube, that kind of thing. But I don't know. We'll see. I have to work this out with the missus. If she's cool with it, then I'll do more Friday night scheduled live streams, and we'll just go through some random projects like this here. I've been wanting to do this tilt shift thing for about 3 weeks now, and I thought that I was going to do it last week. And it's funny because somebody tweeted to me and it was like, how do I do tilt shift? And I'm like, okay, there's my sign. I really need to do that tutorial. Friday is Netflix and chill day. That's what's up. But I really enjoy doing these videos and doing my writing and stuff. If you don't know, I also write for a few people. Right now, my prominent client is the folks at techrepublic.com. So I'll write technology-based things for enterprise tech, but they've been wanting me to focus more on photography. And I'm like, sure, I'm your man. So I've been doing a lot of photography focused writing, whether it's stuff dealing with Adobe, drone stuff, tips and things that works for me that I do, and just something to help people out that want to get started with photography, because photography is so easy to get into because the smartphones today are way better than what they were 7-8 years ago. I mean, heck, even 5 years ago. And you can get some really nice photographs and you can get some really nice video. And if you're clever, you can turn that stuff into some serious pieces of art for your Instagram page or for your YouTube channel, or, it's all of that stuff is right there, usually in your pocket. And what drives me nuts is most people are using it to put crazy filters on their face or just taking really bad shots of food. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be that way. People are just having fun. That's all it is. But yeah, I want to show people that it's really easy to get into photography, and you don't necessarily have to have all of these classes under your belt or anything like that. It's typically you just go out there and point it and shoot and see what you've learned when you captured it, and then try another technique, try another style, try something else with your editing. Just keep growing with it, and next thing you know, you're hooked. That's what happened with me. I had an old Droid X Android smartphone. You remember that? If you remember the Droid X, say hells to the yeah. But yeah, I had a Droid X, and at the time, that thing took some fairly nice photographs, and I just kept shooting. And just whenever I had a free minute, I took that camera out and shot landscape scenes and things like that. And I wasn't doing a bunch of selfies and things like that because I'm not a selfie. But yeah, you just keep repeating it and getting the repetitions in. It will make you better. And I kept shooting with that Droidex and kept going, and I ended up with an HTC phone after that, and it was a really bad camera. But even with that quote unquote bad camera, I was able to pull off some really, really nice photographs, and even sell photographs that were shot with that quote unquote bad camera. You know. Yeah, they had the commercials. Droid. Remember that? Oh man. But yeah, definitely just keep doing it. You got these smartphones, and they're way better than what they were 5 years ago. So just take advantage of it. And I just want to show people that they can do this stuff. You know, it always warms my heart when I get all of these nice compliments and comments on my work that I share on Instagram or on the YouTube channel or what have you, and people will either DM me or say in the comments, you know, how can I do this, or what can I do to get a shot like this? I have that phone, why can't I do that? You know, and I tell them it's practice. You can do it. Just practice it, and I promise you'll get some good shots. I promise you. Just stick with it. So anyway, I'm starting to sound like my vlog sneak peek. Tomorrow is the 28th, April 28th, which is Queen's Cup Day here in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's the big horse race that goes on here. It is an outstanding event. We'll be there with our friends celebrating her birthday weekend, and I will be taking the camera out. I can't take the drone there because you can't fly a drone at a big sporting event like that, but I will take the camera there. I'll probably take my Faux Pro there and just have some fun and shoot some more vlog footage. So be on the lookout for that. I may do a little live streaming while I'm out there. I don't know. My family's been eating up the data plan, so I probably won't. Hard heads. But that's it, folks. All right. Y'all take care. Thank you again for just popping in and hanging out with me on this Friday night and partying with me. Hopefully I've been able to help you guys with something and maybe taught you something that you didn't know that you could possibly try out with your photography and videography, you know. But at any rate, just have fun with it and just keep shooting it, you know. If you like this and enjoyed it, be sure to hit the like and share button so other people that are interested in photography can see this stuff and pass it along, and further help my channel grow so I can continue to get more tools and things that can be reviewed and tested and shared with you all. Thank you very much. Y'all be cool, man. I'll catch y'all later.